In the dead of winter 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out into the Ural Mountains of Russia, but none of them would return home alive. What happened on Dyatlov Pass? Was it an avalanche, a secret military test, or something far stranger? Today we explore one of the most baffling mysteries of the 20th century. The group, led by Igor Dyatlov, was made up of experienced hikers and skiers. They planned a 14-day trek, fully equipped for the harsh winter conditions. On February 1st, 1959, they set up camp on the slopes of Kolet, a mountain ominously called Dead Mountain by locals. Rescue teams arrived weeks later. What they found was chilling. The hikers' tent had been ripped open from the inside. Footprints, some in socks or barefoot, led down the slope into the snow, but the hikers were nowhere near the tent. The bodies, scattered across the area, told a story that made no sense. Initially, rescuers suspected an avalanche or hypothermia, but the condition of the bodies in the camp made the cause far from simple. Clothing was missing, some bodies had unusual injuries, and strange levels of radiation were detected. Some experts suggest a snow slab or avalanche forced the hikers out of their tent, but skeptics note the slope wasn't steep enough to produce such force. Other theories point to secret military tests in the area. Radiation was found on some clothing, leading to speculation of missile or weapon testing. Natural phenomena like katabatic winds or infrasound might have caused panic, forcing hikers to flee in the middle of the night. Some locals report strange lights in the sky that night. Could something unexplained have frightened the hikers? The hikers' journey began on January 27, 1959. 9 students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, all experienced in trekking and winter survival, set out on what they expected to be a challenging yet routine expedition. Their planned route took them through remote areas of the northern Urals. Across steep mountains and dense forests, the group kept detailed diaries, describing each day's progress and the joy of trekking in the snow. On January 31st, they set up their final camp on the slopes of Kolet, a mountain whose name chillingly translates to Dead Mountain. Everything seemed normal at first, and the hikers even recorded their excitement in their logs, but something went terribly wrong that night. The tent was later found slashed from the inside, as if the hikers had fled in panic. Footprints showed that some had left the tent barefoot, into knee-deep snow, in near-zero temperatures. The first bodies were discovered weeks later. 2 hikers were found near the remains of a fire, partially dressed as if trying to stay warm. Others were found scattered over several hundred meters, some with traumatic injuries that experts still struggle to explain. The timeline of these events is critical. From their last known journal entries to the discovery of their camp and bodies, each moment paints a picture of increasing confusion, fear, and mystery. Even today, reconstructions of the hikers' final hours attempt to piece together the sequence of events. Every step, every choice they made that night adds to the enigma of Dyatlov Pass. As investigators examined the bodies, disturbing details began to emerge. Some hikers had suffered massive internal injuries, crushed ribs and fractured skulls, injuries usually associated with high-impact trauma. Yet their skin showed little to no external damage. One of the hikers was found missing her tongue, others were missing eyes. Official reports blamed animals or decomposition, but many experts argue these explanations don't fully account for the condition of the bodies. Even more confusing was the clothing. Several hikers were found wearing the clothes of others, a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing, often associated with extreme hypothermia. But if hypothermia was the cause, why did they flee the tent so suddenly without boots or coats into sub-zero temperatures? Adding to the mystery, radiation was detected on some of the hikers' clothing. Soviet officials claimed it was harmless, yet the investigation was abruptly closed. Files were sealed, and the area was restricted for years. Why was radiation present, and what information, if any, was never released? The most widely accepted explanation today is the avalanche theory. According to this idea, a sudden snow slab collapse struck the hikers' tent, forcing them to flee in panic. Supporters argue that this explains the internal injuries and why the tent was cut open, but critics point out something troubling. The slope angle was relatively shallow, and no clear avalanche debris was found at the site. If an avalanche occurred, why were the footprints still visible weeks later? Another lesser-known explanation involves infrasound, low-frequency sound waves caused by extreme winds moving across the mountain. Some scientists believe these sounds can trigger panic, disorientation, and even terror. In the darkness, combined with freezing temperatures, the hikers may have believed they were in immediate danger. But this theory still doesn't explain the radiation or the severe injuries. Furthermore, several details surrounding the incident raised serious concerns among investigators, details that seemed unrelated to weather or natural causes. Search teams reported seeing unexplained lights in the night sky during the same period the hikers disappeared. Local residents also claimed to witness glowing orbs moving silently across the mountains. At the same time, officials restricted access to the region. Routes were closed. Witnesses were discouraged from speaking publicly, and key documents vanished from public record. These irregularities forced some researchers to ask a difficult question. Was something else happening in the Ural Mountains that night? During the Cold War, the Soviet Union conducted secret weapons testing across remote regions. Some researchers believe the hikers accidentally wandered into a classified experiment. This theory attempts to explain the radiation, the sealed documents, and the rapid closure of the investigation. However, no direct evidence has ever been released, leaving this theory suspended between suspicion and speculation. As coroners examined the bodies, their conclusions only deepened the mystery. The official causes of death varied widely: hypothermia, blunt force trauma, and internal injuries. Yet the circumstances surrounding each were strikingly inconsistent. Some hikers were declared victims of hypothermia, despite being found with severe fractures. Others suffered massive internal damage comparable to a car crash, but showed little to no external bruising. These contradictions raised a troubling question: how could such extreme injuries occur without visible signs of impact? Equally confusing was the estimated time of death. Some reports suggested the hikers died within hours of leaving the tent. Others implied survival attempts lasted much longer. The locations of the bodies suggested different behaviors. Some appeared to flee downhill, others seemed to return to the tent, while a final group was discovered deep in a ravine weeks later. This fragmented timeline makes it difficult to reconstruct a single, coherent sequence of events. Perhaps most unsettling was the language used in the final autopsy reports. Rather than providing clarity, the conclusions were ambiguous. The official ruling stated that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force, a phrase so vague it answered nothing. No detailed explanation was given for the missing organs, the radiation, or the panic that forced the hikers from their tent. These inconsistencies are why the Dyatlov Pass case refuses to fade into history. When official explanations fail to align with physical evidence, questions naturally remain. Whether the truth lies in nature, human error, or something deliberately concealed, the coroner's findings leave us with more uncertainty than answers. In the end, the Dyatlov Pass incident offers no final answer, only silence. 9 experienced hikers entered the Ural Mountains, confident in their skills and preparation. What happened next defied logic and official explanation. Perhaps the truth was lost to time, buried beneath snow, secrecy, or fear. Or perhaps the most unsettling reality is this, that what we know is incomplete. Dyatlov Pass remains a place where facts blur, evidence contradicts itself, and certainty disappears. Some stories are remembered because they are solved. Others endure because they never will be. This is one of them.